What's up, folks? It's the Heath Bar. Back by popular demand, or back just because I was able to finally record again. I've had quite a lot of things going on in my life lately. All great things, good things, awesome things. But it has taken a lot of time to get all of these things accomplished. And they're personal, so I don't need to get into them here. But if you were worried that this podcast was over, fret not. It's going on again, and it's going to keep going. There's some awesome people that I continue to meet and still want to get on this show that we have been trying to get our schedules figured out, and it's going to happen. So the Heath Bar, folks, it's where it's at. Chat's on tap. Anyway, let's see. Let's get some announcements for you. What do I got going on? Later this month, let me give you this one. About the last weekend in October, so that would be the 25th and 26th. Not this weekend, but the following, I will be at Flanagan's Irish Pub Friday and Saturday night, slinging some tunes for you. You guys have heard me talk about it, but I bartended there for years. It's kind of where I had my first real gig, I would call it. So it'll be good to get back there. So if you guys are around and want to come hang out, 9 o'clock to midnight, Friday and Saturday night, October 25th and 26th. You'll see me there. If you haven't yet, you can check out the website, heathbaronline.com. I keep all of the past episodes up there for you all to check out and listen. I got a little blog I try to write about whenever I can. Anything that comes into my mind. Certain things I find interesting and things that I get going. But I keep it all up there in one place. Places where I'll be playing, where you can find me at. All there at the Heath Bar Online, or just heathbaronline.com. You can find it all out there. So go check it out and tell your friends about it. It's a cool website I put together. I think anyway, and I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy it when people check it out. So there you go. Also, if you are of the social media type, which I am quickly not becoming a fan of just because of the amount of time it consumes, but it's an easy way to get the word out, so I get it, and it's kind of one of those monsters we have to deal with and live with. Anyway, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Heath Bar Online. Mostly on Instagram lately these days. The Facebook stuff is just, I just kind of don't spend a lot of time on it anymore. So if you want to find out what's going on, I would recommend going to Instagram at Heath Bar Online, giving it a follow, staying in touch. Or you can keep up with me rather on Twitter as well, at Heath Johnson. It's kind of cool. I caught my actual name as a handle on Twitter, which doesn't happen that often to a lot of people. So I was excited about that. Anyway, I have all my posts up there, stuff that's going on in my life, shows I'll be playing, and all of that feeds into the website as well. So they're kind of connected. So you want to find out how to get that, go to Heath Bar Online, and then hop on over to one of those social media outlets of choice. As always, you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, and I'm on Spotify as well, Google Play, anywhere where you listen to your podcast, you'll find the Heath Bar. Serving them up as often as I can for you to listen to. Meeting some cool people, talking with some cool folks, all for your listening pleasure. Speaking of which, let's get to it. This episode I am super excited about. I sat down with Mike Endrud. He's a fella I met 3 years ago, I think now, or maybe just 2 years ago. Guys, hard to tell. But anyway, I met him at Wayne Bay's epic garage parties that he throws, also known as Liz Fest, if for those of us that are aware. Wayne lives in Whitewood. You can check him out on a previous episode. Him and I chatted a lot for a while, but that's where I met Mike. Mike hails to us from North Dakota, and he's lived up there all his life, and has spent the better part of his life learning, and I would dare say perfecting the pedal steel guitar. at Wayne's garage parties, we all get up and jam and play, and it's just a bunch of musicians and people that like music hanging out, and it was awesome. I brought my guitar first time I met him, and he's playing the pedal. I'm singing some songs. Got a few other buddies up there with us, and the dude's phenomenal. He's an awesome guy, awesome person to know, and just has an incredible story. Spent 45-something years working on the oil rigs, and just got into some, started playing music and being in bands when he was at a really, really young age, and connected. It just clicked with him. He's got a knack for it. He has a talent for it and a desire to keep going with it. It's pretty awesome when you meet someone who recognizes that you never really get perfect at anything, no matter what someone might say about you, because I think he nails it. But he came down for the Wild West Songwriters Festival, which we just had this past weekend in Deadwood, South Dakota, hosted by the Deadwood Chamber and the Deadwood Mountain Grand. And he came down, was in part of our local rounds that we put on of the local and regional artists that are not from Nashville. And come down, sang some of his songs, of course made a ton of new fans. And him and I sat down, and we had a really good chat. And I am really excited to share it with you. I could go on and say a bunch of things to waste more of your time, but I'm not going to do that, because this is a conversation that I know a lot of you are excited for and is worth listening to. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here at the Heath Bar, give it up for Mike Endrud. Welcome to the Heath Bar, where the conversations are always on tap. We're just kind of talk a little bit about who you are and what got you playing, and some fun stories from your life, if that's cool with you.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I got my first guitar for Christmas when I was 9 years old.
Okay.
Prior to that, I was always drawn to music. Probably sounds a little odd, but even on the Lawrence Welk show when I was young, I'd watch Buddy Merrill.
Uh-huh.
And I was just always drawn to it. And I was, this is probably going to sound a little cliche, but when I was 6 years old, and I had my records, I should say my brother and sister, like Buddy Holly, and all those.
Oh, yeah, of course.
All those kind of things, and I listened to them, and I listened to them over and over, and surprisingly enough, I lived in a small town of Mayville, which was about 60 miles from Fargo-Moorhead.
Okay.
Well, that's where Buddy Holly was coming to.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was 6 years old. I didn't even have a guitar yet, and I was bugging my folks to take me because I wanted to see Buddy Holly. And I remember the next day my mother telling me, I didn't even know how I was going to tell you what happened.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't think that, good chance they wouldn't have taken me anyway, but I mean, my spark was there from
6 years old.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And I kept wanting guitars, and I don't think they took me seriously. Then when I was about 9, I got one. So it'll be 58 years Christmas Eve since I started.
That young, young ago.
Yeah.
6 to 9, you fought for one, everything like that.
Yeah.
Is it just always, so it's always been music, learning to play, and that's been.
Yeah, and I don't know even really exactly where it came from.
Huh.
I just always.
Did your family play or anything like that?
My mother played piano and organ.
Okay.
There was music lovers. Nobody played a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We had a piano at the house, of course. My mother taught me chords on that and stuff like that. And I don't know. And I thought I got to have a guitar, and I've never stopped. It's just been never been work or a challenge. I mean, of course, it's been a challenge at times, but I mean, I just got a love for the stuff. And
do you remember what your first one was? First guitar?
Silvertone.
A Silvertone.
Yeah, a Silvertone, a little acoustic Silvertone with the spray on Sunburst.
Yeah.
With the stripes, the little white
that's
picker.
cool.
Yeah. And then my brother, who was always been an electronics guy, and he was 8 years older than me, so I suppose he was in his teens.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to build me little amplifiers or put a jack in an old radio. And then he bought me a little contact microphone, the kind you kind of slip
Sure,
on the
yeah.
hole with that little metal clip that looked like the state of Nevada.
Right. Yeah.
They were that kind of shape, and we had this big old upright radio. God, I forget what the brand was. Crosley.
Oh, Crosley.
Crosley radio,
Okay.
and somehow he rigged that up and made an amp out of it for me.
You've got to be kidding me.
No, and he did that for me a lot, and he built me another amp, and then eventually he built me, had a squeal in it, and then got electric guitar when I was about in 7th grade,
Okay.
which I still have it, my 57 Duo Sonic,
Oh, my
and
goodness.
I won't part with it.
Yeah, those are something you got to keep, man.
Yeah, and I told her that we started playing guitars together right away.
Mm-hmm.
Or dance someday.
A high school dance?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and
Did you get to play for a dance?
well, yeah, and finally, and oddly enough, my folks divorced, and my mother remarried, and then we were moving out to Watford,
Okay.
and we got to play for a dance the last night I lived there, and I was not happy. I thought, finally, we get to do a dance, and now I got to move tomorrow morning. I was not pleased. I hated. I thought, I'll probably never find anybody to play with again now. And
you spend so much time playing with certain people,
Yeah.
you get good enough for it,
and
and then leave.
if I can't recall the night exactly, but we probably, if we knew 10 songs in the whole things, I would have been amazed.
Okay.
I don't even remember what we did. It was just early 60s rock and roll stuff.
Sure.
Which was, at that age of my life, that was all. It was
Sure.
rock and roll stuff. I mean,
Did you have like a favorite like group of bands? I'm sure there's not one.
Gosh, there were so many back there. Of course, here come the Beatles later.
Right,
Of course,
right.
who doesn't have that influence? And but I don't know. I like different things. I even remember liking, watching Johnny Cash, and
Mm-hmm.
his guitar player, and anything that had a guitar. Another guy I used to watch was the Collins kids.
Oh,
Larry
sure.
and Lori Collins.
Yeah.
And I used to see him on when he was a little kid on TV shows with his double neck. And I thought, I envy this kid. I want his guitar.
Were you living in North Dakota still at the
Yeah,
time? So you were
yeah.
kind of born and raised up there then?
Yes,
Okay,
yep.
gotcha. Yeah, I remember the first time I saw the double neck, I was like, that looks beyond anything I could even understand. And now it's like, it's just...
That was too much weight.
Yeah, it's just too heavy, Like I could play it, but it's just too heavy.
My shoulder will hurt tomorrow.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I played in a church band for a while, and they didn't have a bass player or guitarist, so I played both, and I had both strung around my neck, the bass low, the guitar high, and depending on the song, I would switch, and I was like, this is dumb. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this at all.
Excuse me.
No, you're fine. So man, that's early. Like I didn't start till I was in my teens, so this has been your life basically.
Yeah.
And I mean, it shows because you hear you play, and it's like this guy's been playing for a while.
Yeah, well, thank you. Appreciate that. And then we moved out to Watford, and it was really odd. I had a good friend, a great friend of me. I think you've heard me talk about Jimmy Christensen.
I've heard the name. Yeah,
He was a steel player that did well for a lot of years, and I'd moved to Watford. I don't know if I'd been there maybe around a week or something. Didn't really know anybody, you know. And I'm standing in the hall, and this kid taps me on the shoulder, and he said, "Are you the new kid?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." "Huh?" He said, "I heard you play guitar." And I said, well, yeah, I do. And he said, well, I play too. He said, you want to get together after school? And I said, sure.
Of course.
So we go over to his place and pick up his, he had one of those, I forget the model, black Silvertone double pickup with the Bigsby. They're sought after now anyway.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
And a little Silvertone amp, and we hiked it up to the house.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, the only thing I liked was rock and roll.
Yeah.
And we got up to the house, went down my room and plugged stuff in and and he started playing country stuff.
Uh-oh.
And I kind of went, no.
That's not what
No.
I do.
And I told him, we laughed about this for years, and I said, I looked at him, I said, you got to get that stuff out of your head. So years go by, in comes the steel guitar into our life.
Sure.
And oddly enough, and then me and Jimmy, back then we started a band with 3 other guys, and we had that in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Band we called the Sabres. Just did the Beatles, Paul Revere and the Raiders, the Animals.
Yeah.
But, that whole era
Of course,
stuff,
yeah, absolutely.
Pretty standard. Then, I don't know, must have been about I don't know how old I was, a sophomore, maybe a junior. And a friend of mine, older friend of mine, had gone off to college, and he come back and he said, Endrud, I got a guy you got to hear. And I said, who's that? And he said, Bob Dylan. Well, and it was new to me.
And was Bob fairly new still? Or?
Yeah, it was kind of about the time he was,
okay,
mid 60s, 66, 67.
Okay,
I don't
sure.
remember.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, who hasn't been influenced by him?
Oh,
I almost hate to say it. It's so damn cliche.
Well, I don't know who couldn't be anymore. He's so prevalent in everything that happened.
And he said, and so I went over there, and he put that album on, and I just sat there, and I thought, this is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it just knocked me over, and so what do? I didn't play any more rock and roll much after that. I got more into the folk style.
Sure.
And the more you got into Dylan, you learn about other people's influences, and it actually takes you back in history.
Yeah.
And here come, Lightning Hopkins and all these blues players and stuff that he liked, and all of a sudden you're discovering stuff he knew a long time ago.
Yeah.
And
it's funny how that happens.
You go back and always like, how did I miss this stuff?
Yeah, that's a good way to. I hadn't thought of it that way. Like when you find a new artist, you almost find like a portal in time to.
You find a portal back, and you go like, well, what influenced him? And then you go back in this history, and you hear all this stuff in the past that you go, wow,
what was I doing? Where was I?
These guys are good.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. And, and I just kind of kept on that way. And of course, then I had to go get a harmonica holder and play harmonica, and do your best rendition of The Times Are Changing or Don't Think Twice.
Right.
Everybody had to try and be a Dylan at some point.
There's certain songs people are going to request, and you got to learn them.
Yeah.
That's how it works, man.
Yeah. So anyway, I got married really young. I was 20. Had a son by the time I was 22. So I kind of didn't do anything for a lot of years other than just playing at home.
Sure.
And that was, and then about, this is a dark spot in my musical history.
There's always a few.
There was a local band, a family band, and they did country, older time country and polkas, waltzes, schottisches. Well, they needed a drummer. So they came up to me and asked me if I'd be interested in drumming. And I was working full-time at that time, and then I'd work at a gas station after work and on weekends to try and make a little extra.
Okay.
Like
yeah,
a guy
absolutely.
does.
Absolutely.
And I thought, I can make more money drumming Friday and Saturday night than working for this ass that I'm working for. He was a tyrant.
Which is the case usually,
And I thought, you're not paying me that much. I don't have to take all this crap.
Yeah.
So anyway, I told him, yeah. Because, I'd monkeyed with drums, and I could do a little
enough to keep the train beat and go from there.
Yeah, probably not even that good.
Okay.
Didn't do too many rolls. I don't, And I thought, I never thought of myself being a drummer, and
how old were you around this time?
Probably 23.
Okay.
Something
so early
like that.
20s Mike, the drummer.
Yeah.
Interesting,
well, I did
man.
that, but I wanted to drum and make some money so I could buy a pedal steel. That was my purpose.
Hey, however you get to a pedal steel,
yeah,
it's an ends justifies the means type of thing, man.
Yeah. Well, I bought one of those in 1970. I bought a double neck Fender, 8-string, no pedal. Absolutely mint.
Ugh.
But I didn't know what to do with it. And this is 1970, so I tuned it to a chord, and I held just a flat pick and strummed it across and slid the bar up, and I thought, well, I can't get any minors out of this damn thing. So I tuned the other neck so I had one.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember, and I'd give up, and I'd put it under the bed, and then I'd drag it out. Well, then my friend Jimmy, who I talked about earlier, was in college in Fargo. And he came back and he said, well, I bought a steel too. This is the same kid from 8th grade when I moved there, Jimmy Christensen.
Okay.
And I said, well, how the hell does that work? So he had it set up, and he said, well, okay, here's the basic grips. He said, play 3, 4, and 5 and push down pedal 2, and you go from a 1 to a 4.
Okay.
So he said, here's E, open, push it down, you got A. And of course, up 2 frets, you got a B.
Right.
And then he said, then you can go up to the 7th fret at your B, put the pedals back down, and you're back at an E again. So I kind of went ching, 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 ching. I said, now this makes more sense. You can do something with this.
Yeah.
So that's why I went to drumming. And I bought a little single neck MSA, 3 pedals, 1 knee lever. It was not a good $500, and it wasn't a good guitar.
Was it enough to learn on?
Enough to learn.
Okay, but not enough to really last.
MSA is a good company, but this was a really, really cheapy thing.
Gotcha.
So within a year, that was done. I thought, I need more than this. Then I bought a double neck Showbud, Pro 3, the E9th and C6, 8-floor pedals, 4 knee levers.
Jeez.
I bought that in 76. And with this band I was drumming with, I had started bringing my steel along. And I'd get off the drums and play steel. And then I'd go back to drumming, and then another couple songs, I might go play steel again. Well, I think they recognized where my heart was.
Oh, of course. It's, yeah.
And the guitar player, man, he passed away a few years ago, unfortunately, named by Ordine Tweeden. And kind of looked at me one night and he said, I think we ought to just kind of go without a drummer and you just play that thing all the time. Fine. And they
don't twist my arm, man.
Bless their hearts. They had to put up with some bad steel playing.
Oh man.
And that's where I cut my teeth.
Sure.
Was doing that, and they were always gracious enough to let me keep doing it. And
well, you got to start somewhere, and someone's got to be willing to let you start. And that's the thing. You're gonna screw up when you first start anything,
count on
and
it.
finding people that are willing to just let you do that, that's rare, man.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It is.
That's
so,
really cool.
Those are the type of people you always owe a lot to. A lot of times you don't see it till later on, and you look back at it, and it means a lot more. I thought, man, I bet I really played some crap back on that thing, and
every now and then a video will surface of stuff I played years ago, and it's like, oh God, why? I kind of hate that we live in an era where everything's recorded. You know what I mean?
And here come my first night. I had learned steel guitar rag.
Okay.
And I worked on it, and here comes the night where I think I've got it together enough to do it publicly. And I get really nervous sometimes. I still do.
Oh, really?
But unfortunately, and I've gotten where I can control it, I used to start to shake. I mean, I'd get so nervous, my hands would, when I was, and it just
feel all the eyes looking at you.
Oh, man, I'll tell you, I'd start going to pieces. So I had a little bit of anxiety about doing that song. And the worst thing you can be is a steel player with a volume pedal with a nervous twitch in your right foot.
I believe it, yeah.
And I started trying to play it, and it was going... My foot was going up and down on the volume pedal. It was like this horrible... And I... Probably, if it was 30 seconds to a minute, I had to shut it down.
Man.
And I thought, oh, boy. I was so like, I don't think anybody else really even gave a damn, but, man, I was devastated. It took me a long time to...
Do you think it was one of those things that only you noticed, or did everyone notice and no one just...
I just think it was my anticipation.
Gotcha.
Everybody was knowing how bad this was going, I mean, it's...
Well, I find out...
It's like the old thing, you can screw up a song, but for God's sakes, don't let it stop.
Right, you got to keep going.
It stops...
Yep, everyone knows.
It has happened.
I've got a friend of mine that will do that. He will start a song, and if he messes up anything, he just stops the song. And it's like, dude...
Yeah.
And he's playing in, loud bars. No one's listening anyway. It's like no one even noticed, man. Just keep going.
Yeah.
But I learned early on that just finish the song. And then, the next time you play it, you won't make that mistake, and no one's going to even know that you made it anyway. But that's...
Oh, and I used to be... And I still do this. I don't know if I've told a few people. I grade myself. I've always done it every time I get done playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's not a weird thing. It's just I just analyze my evening.
Do you have like a sheet that you follow?
No. Okay, and I'll just think, how'd you do tonight, Mike? Really, I mean, for what you would think you should be, I might give that one a C. It's just being honest with myself.
Sure.
And I've given myself some Fs.
Really?
Oh,
see,
yeah.
I'm trying to picture what even a C from
there was
from
one
you looks
New
like.
Year's Eve. I was going to give myself an F, and I thought it's New Year's Eve. You can't get an F on New Year's Eve, so I upgraded to a D.
You rounded the curve a little bit, like I'm just going to do that. And no, I passed.
And it's just and I don't I'll be honest with myself about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't beat myself up for doing bad,
mm-hmm.
and I don't praise myself if I, there's times I've given myself an A, and there's times I've given myself an F, and I'd rate that one about a C minus.
Do you find that like grading yourself that way, has it helped you like critique yourself? Because I think that's one of the hardest things to do as an artist is
very much
look back and how did I actually do? Because one, everyone's their own worst critic, and two, if you don't have like a set thing you want to grade, like you said, grade yourself on, it's hard to even know where to start.
Yeah.
Has that, like, just as you started to do that, how quickly did you notice like improvements, or did you even at all? Do you still give yourself Fs, 50 plus years later?
Oh, hell yes.
Really?
Oh, hell yeah.
So you never really perfect the instrument is what you're telling me.
No, you don't. You don't. If you ever get to thinking you got it perfected, you better quit.
You better just stop.
But I mean,
especially the pedal, man.
It's really not to tear myself down or build myself up. I just want, but the thing I do like about it, I know when I'm slacking. You know, my God, there's some nights I've sat down and played steel and it's all automatic.
Sure.
You know, and I'm really not paying much attention.
Yeah.
You know, you're just kind of doing your most because you can get kind of caught up in that, playing that way, you know. And so I don't know where I was really kind of going with that, but it just keeps me factual, I guess. I don't know what else, how to
like, I'm going to be graded on this later. I better pay attention now.
Yeah, and it keeps me motivated because... And then I'll look, you think you could sit down and practice and learn something new, Mike?
Sure.
You know, you've been writing on what you know on the carpet for quite a while now.
Sure,
Doing the same old licks and doing the same old crap.
But it's easy to do.
Yeah,
you know, and
you're doing it.
If it sounds good, people eat it up, it's easy to just stop,
It's just, I had a friend say one time, it's old TOI, he said, or time on instrument.
Yeah.
You know, and I used to fall apart, like if I made a mistake when I was younger, ruined my whole night.
Really?
I just couldn't shake it. I mean, if I did one little bad steel part, I'd go, oh, what have I done? You know, and I couldn't shake it. And I did not learn how to do things right, probably in my 40s, before I thought, why don't you enjoy the learning process rather than beating yourself up over it? Why don't you enjoy the journey
a
little more? You don't have to anticipate, I need to get way up here or I'm not happy. How about enjoying the slow walk up the hill, Mike, rather than just going for dynamite?
Yeah, and and seeing like, how good am I right now? What can I enjoy doing with my level of quality at this moment? I don't do that.
And I only got better at that after I quit drinking.
Okay.
That's when things turned for me.
Musicians and alcohol, man. Yeah. It's a thing. And And more I look at them together, I'm like, I don't know if they're a good pair,
No, well, I don't oppose it at all, but I haven't drank for 23 years.
Wow.
That stuff can sneak in on you. When you're playing all the time I was in a band and it was every weekend, and all of a sudden you lose track of what you're doing. It gets to be more about the whoop-de-doo party life than what you're, and I quit. And somewhere in that first year, I felt like I got back to it for what I really loved it for. It was just doing it. And fortunately, I played with some really good guys up in Williston in a band, really good players. And I wasn't too sure how I was going to handle playing in a bar and not drinking. I thought, this is going to be a new experience.
Yeah.
And I even made the statement, I either learn how to do it without it or I start doing it again. I thought, because I'm not quitting playing for nothing.
Sure.
Fortunately, it worked out for me, and I had been in that band for a few years, and then that year came, and at the end of that year, and we had played at this bar in Williston, and one guy, a guitar player, came and said, Mike, we want to talk to you. And I thought, uh-oh, this don't sound good. He said, we all got together and we want to talk to you. And I said, okay. I thought, geez, they pissed at me about something here? What's happening? And he said, well, we all took a vote. He said, and we decided the most improved player this last year is you. And they said, whatever the hell you're doing, please keep it up.
Check that out.
And I just, oh, man, I'm getting goosebumps now.
Huh.
And that meant so much to me.
Sure.
Because, it was like, And he said, and the guitar player said, I've kind of watched you struggle trying to get up to that next level.
Yeah.
He said, and all of a sudden this last year, he said, it's just like you took a slow float right across the top of it.
Did you notice that, or was this?
No.
So, okay.
No, I didn't. I was still kind of feel comfortable in my skin at
Yeah.
that time with it, you know. And I thought, what a compliment to get from friends and good players you like.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
awesome.
And I just, you know, and my whole attitude and the improvement came much better without
Sure.
sitting there, you know, cussing at yourself and calling yourself every name in the book because you can't get something learned. Like, you know, you
Just put it down
dumbass,
and walk
you know.
away, and like, I'm
Yeah.
never picking this up again. I'm
Yeah.
horrible.
You know.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's odd when I'd try and learn licks on steel, I'd sit there and I found the good thing, get up and walk away.
Sure.
Go walk away for 10 minutes, relax a little bit, and I don't know how many times I go sit down and I go, there it is. There it is. I sat here for 2 hours prior trying to force this on me.
It's
but-
easy to, when you're like in the thick of it, to
Yep.
just get overwhelmed. Like there's a few licks I've tried, and I found the same thing. As soon as I like walk away, sometimes
Yeah.
it's a day. Like I'm
Yep.
gonna put it down for a day. I'll try in the morning, you know, and all of a sudden, it's like your muscles and memories happen overnight. You're like, oh, there we go, okay. But yeah, So I've been playing. I got my first guitar when I was 16, so way like 10 years after you were interested in it. But nothing really took off for me until about 10 years ago when I just really kind of dove into it. And even now, I'm like, you can tell, like I don't have a lot of time to really get into it just because I've got a job, I got kids, and it's funny how that happens, So I'm waiting for the day that I get to retire, like yourself, and just get to spend all day on the guitar,
The only thing that sucks is you got to be old.
Yeah, I know. I know, but I don't know. It's...
Yeah, now I'm getting to the point at this age, I thought, why am I even worried about this at this point?
It's good to still have something to strive for, It's, this is... I still have goals. I still have things that I want to do, and that never really ends, And
I about ran myself to death trying to be a full-time job. You try to be a husband. You try and be a father. You try and be a musician.
Mm-hmm.
There was weekends. I'd get home 1, 2 o'clock, get up at 6.
Yep.
Go to work all day, go back, do it the next night.
Mm-hmm.
And you never realize how tired you're getting because you're driven.
Yeah.
And then here comes Sunday, and you're so fried and shot that you can't even function around the house. So there's downsides to it too. I can look back on it now and, maybe I shouldn't have played. I could have played a little less, and maybe been a little not so wore out on Sunday once in a while. But that's life.
That's just, that's how it works. It's funny. Like, I don't know. I felt the same thing a lot. And this year, not so much in terms of that, because I haven't played as many gigs as I usually do. But it's because we just had a kid, and things at work are going well, and so it's just how it happens, But I look back and when I was doing all of that, just go, and I'm like, how in the world did I do that? Because now it seems impossible. Like, there's no way I could do all of that right now. Like, how in the world did I do all of that? I was hoping you'd have the answer, but I sure don't, man.
No, I look back at it now in the years I did that in the late nights and driving home. I was pretty lucky. Only one time in all those years I fell asleep and went in the ditch.
Oh.
Oof. And I woke up and there's weeds flying by the window and I don't know where the highway is, And man, I must have had somebody with me that night because the only place I could have gone off that road with no approaches was where I went.
Oh.
I look back at that night and I thought, somebody was riding shotgun on that one.
Jeez.
But that's about the only time I, and of course, them days, you drove home probably not in the best of shape.
No,
quite a few times.
Yeah. Well, and this would have been what decade would this have been? Like or decades?
70s to into the later 90s, all through there. To I'd say 96 from.
And that was back in the day when, like, I grew up in a small town. Yeah. You know, if you got pulled over, like, they'd just give you a ride home. You know, hey, you're going straight home, or they'll follow you home, or whatever the case may be. You know,
exactly.
They'd give you a ride or anything, and see, that's not the case anymore, man.
Nope.
Like they are.
No, it isn't.
There is zero tolerance for it, which has its pros. It has its, you know. I mean, I don't want to say cons. Cons isn't the right word for it, but you know, there are. I don't know. You talk about good old days, and everybody thinks they've lived in the good old days. You know, it's just
definitely.
Every generation has them. But that was something I learned early on. And the nice thing is, for a long time I lived, you know, blocks away from where I played most of the time, so I could just walk home, get all my gear in the morning. You know, and just leave it there overnight. But it's that goes back to the alcohol and music type thing. You know, because I've noticed lately, like I maybe have one or two, you know, beers, and that's about it for the night. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to wake up hurting in the morning. I turned 36 in January, and somewhere in the last 5 to 6 years, my head started to pound in the mornings, man. It's like my metabolism went, and I'm done. You know?
When it starts taking 2 days,
right?
There's a warning signal.
Oh, it's like, okay, I got to rethink the things I choose to put in my body at gigs, man. Even, I mean, like, you know, Wayne's party, you know, that's where we met, you know, Wayne's garage there in Whitewood. Liz Fest. He's done 3 or 4 of them. I can't remember now, but, you know, the first one I did that, you know, that was, you know, 3-4 years ago, and I had a really good time, you know. I remember laying in the yard out back just watching the stars, like, oof. And this last time I was there, I think I had 1, you know, 2 maybe. I might have been 2, but I was like, I don't want to hurt, you know. But 23 years since you had your last one, you said?
Yeah.
So you still remember what hangovers are like, though? That's something you never forget.
I don't ever want one again. I hate them.
Okay, you're what I have to strive to be at some point, Mike. Like, okay, I'm gonna get to that point where it's like,
I was 43 when the bell rang. So you got time. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Well, so when one of the things that the pedal steel is by far, I think, one of the most beautiful instrument in, I don't want to say, you know, instrument history, but by far in modern music. Like, do you know the origins of it or anything like that, or is that something you really ever got into? Or just
it came back, you know, from you know, like the Hawaiian type
of course,
thing and all that.
I knew that.
Of course, and then they made the, you know, the lap steels,
and
stuff like that, and then the stand-up ones, and then somewhere, I don't know, you know, the exact details, but then I've heard the story that the first song, and people started hooking pedals up to things just to change something.
Yeah.
I think the song was Slowly, that it was ever first recorded on.
Okay.
I'm not 100% on
Sure.
that, but and then it just progressed, and there was all these guys through. I could name you a bunch from way back in the 50s into the 60s, you know, and tremendous players.
Yeah.
You know, of course, everybody's heard Buddy Emmons, you know, Curly Chalker, Red Rhodes. There's Doug Jernigan and Lloyd Green, bunch of others, you know, and I don't know, I just kind of started paying attention to a lot of them, you know, and things they did. Bought a lot of albums of theirs and listened to them, and went to the International Steel Guitar Convention twice.
International? Was it?
It was in St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
Yeah, and boy, the top dogs were there.
Oh, man.
The first time we went, Jimmy Christensen, who I talked to, had kept on playing steel. He had gone to Ardmore, Oklahoma, to Hank Thompson's School of Country Music.
Okay.
I went to school there. Then he came back to Watford for a little bit, and then he went to Powell, Wyoming to his brother's, and he met up with a band that I've told, Sawmill Creek.
Okay.
Tremendous. Oh, I think I told you once, you ought to look it up and listen to it.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Steele playing, I owe him a lot of credit for helping me too,
Yeah.
stuff. And so here you got two steel players out of Watford City, and we never had a competition bone between us.
Mm-hmm.
We always shared things. Even when he was gone, we kept up on the phone, and Jimmy's playing, me working and not putting the time in it like he did. He did it for his life. And his playing just excelled.
Sure.
I mean, I go, damn, man, this is incredible.
Yeah.
And they made about 3 albums. And then there's, how that goes. You get a band together and eventually you're going to have trouble. And he quit and went out to L.A. and played out there and wasn't real happy with the whole scene out there. It was kind of the start of the line dancing thing.
Oh, okay.
The tush pushy crap and all this that went on, all
Did you
the
say
dances.
Tush pushy crap? Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, the dance names.
Right.
And I thought, for God's sakes, are we going to have to live through country disco now? I thought I lived through disco. Don't expect me to do this shit again.
You have to cross genres to make more money, man. That's how all that works. Oh,
God, I just went, please, God, don't let this happen. Don't do it.
Oh, jeez.
And he hated it because people would come up and ask, other than a song, they'd ask for a type of dance.
Really?
Yeah. He said, well, can you play this style of a dance? He didn't give a shit what the song was.
Right, yeah.
And he was just beside himself. And then he had played somewhere up in Orange County, and he was driving back, and he drove back home, and he was sitting on his couch writing the whys and whys nots of moving to Nashville.
Yeah.
He said, then the earthquake hit. That was when they had that big one out there.
Oh, yeah.
And he he had a wife and daughter, ran in. He said they were on the bed riding like it was a big wave, and he thought,
that's it.
Well, I don't need to make any more whys and why not. So, and he moved out to Nashville. He got to do so many cool things. There's demo tapes of him with doing demos with Sheryl Crow.
Oh, man.
Before anybody knew who she was.
Sure.
And he had one out of Jackson Hole. God, I'm going to draw a blank. The guy, Skinner guy. Gary Rosington.
Yeah, okay.
He's got a tape of him and Gary Rosington in Jackson Hole doing a bunch of jam
You gotta be
stuff.
kidding me.
No.
That's awesome.
And
it's really
anyway,
cool.
he met all these people, did all these things. Well, then I don't know if he'd been there. He was, going to tryouts for things and wasn't having luck. Well, all of a sudden, somebody that knew him, and he wound up, he played for Laurie White for about 2 years.
Holy cow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was.
That's a name I haven't heard in a while, man.
Yeah, of course,
wow.
Laurie just passed away in the last several years. Yeah, and he played with her for 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
And had nothing but good things to say about her, that she was just a great person to work
Laurie
for.
White, man.
Yeah.
Grew up listening
and then
to her.
he left that. That ended, and then he wound up with Michael Peterson for several years, and then Shane Miner was the guy's name he played with. Anyway, and that all stopped. His health got bad for various reasons, and he moved back to Watford, and he couldn't do a lot, but I thought, so we've got this acoustic band. Me and you've met Kelly.
Yep.
Me and Kelly, Gene Veter, and another guy we got playing bass. And anyway, Jimmy come back, and I said, "Why don't you play steel with us?" And he needs something to do, and he got a little shaky from stuff, and anyway, and so he jumped in and started playing steel with us and stuff. But he got real sick a little over a year ago, and he got some toxicity from a medication thing, and it affected his cerebellum and stuff, and his speech is bad, and he can't walk real good, and he's actually in a home now in Dickinson for a while. So I get down and see him every chance I get.
Sure.
He's been a good friend since I was 13 and he was 12.
Man, oh man.
When we met, and we kept on this whole journey together the whole time, and he's just a wonderful guy.
Well, and I'm assuming you're the only two pedal players from North Dakota.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had one guy tell me one night I was playing, he said, "Mike Endrud, best steel guitar player in western North Dakota since Jimmy Christensen left town."
That's great.
I said, whether you know it or not, I said, that's a compliment.
That's a compliment, and probably true.
Yeah.
Well, and I remember, so the first time we met, it had to have been 3 years ago, because I think I missed last year's, because I was playing in a band, and my buddy played the pedal, and that was the one thing he wanted to learn. And he's a younger dude. I think he's younger. He's my age. I think he's a few years younger than me. But he said, "Well, there's you can find a guitarist or a dime a dozen. Bass players are 5 cents to a dime. You can just find them everywhere. And drummers get a little iffy, but he didn't want to have to haul drums around all over the place. So he said, well, I'm going to learn the pedal." And he did, and so we played the pedal. He played the pedal, and I played the acoustic. We had a little duo that we played in that, and so that took me from just listening to music with a pedal in it to actually getting to perform with it on stage and see how someone plays it. And I tell you, man, it just blows me away. I don't think I have the capacity to do that many things at once. That's why I can't play the drums either. There's just too many things. But you have the knee bends and the pedals on your foot, and then it
all becomes automatic, and you don't really think.
Well, I'm sure it does. But it's got to be. It's one of those instruments where if you don't have time to invest in it, don't even start.
No, that I would agree with.
I would imagine you're looking at hours a day.
Oh yeah,
minimum.
So much of it, and anybody will tell you, is right hand technique.
Yeah,
it's the picking hand. In pick blocking, palm blocking, where you kind of go like this, and stuff, and the pick blocking stuff and all that, and. I got to play with weird fingers because I cut this one off.
Why'd you do that, Mike?
I didn't want to. Actually, the first night...
Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
6 days before I got married.
What?
I cut my finger off.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, I went to work in the oil field on workover rig, and I told my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, I don't care what happens, I just don't want to cut any fingers off.
Oh, my goodness. You jinxed yourself, man.
Jinxed it. And I went home that night. I had to go in and, I won't go into bed. They had to saw the top part that was left and clean that up. And I had this big bandage, and I thought, that's my finger-picking finger. Well, the pointer's pretty important.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, how is this one going to do this now?
Oh, man.
So I'm sitting at home with this bandage on going. I thought, well, I'm going to have to figure out how these are going to work independently, and I finally got to where it worked. But I use my pinky. If I'm not using finger picks, I'll use my pinky on the high string a lot.
Okay.
And sometimes rather than doing what these did, I'll do it with these three. Is
the pinky normally not used?
Not a lot of times. I think people do, but a lot of times. But I think I use it more than a lot of people do.
Man. But having to retrain your hand, man. I
was bummed.
So not only did you learn how to play it, you then learned it again with different fingers. Jeez, man.
Yeah, so I never got to play steel with that finger ever. When I started out, I had to play this way.
Man.
But it's just the lack of independent moving, not to make excuses, but sometimes it's, the speed has been a bit of a challenge to really try and knock it up to where I'd like it to be, but I'm more of a melodic.
Well,
I'm kind of a sentimental old melodic guy when it comes to. I play other stuff, but when I can play slow ballads behind something and just hit some power chords and maybe a little harmonic one in there, I just love doing that.
See, that's when I think the pedal really guts people in songs like that, when they hear it and oh my gosh, especially when you're not expecting it to come into a song and then it shows up. It's like, oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
I fell in love instantly. Absolutely instantly. And it's surprising to me how many people, because for a while there, the pedal steel kind of took a dive and nobody wanted it, you know?
Oh yeah.
And it seems to be just coming back, which makes me wonder, why in the world would anybody say, that instrument's dead?
It's always been pigeonholed as a country instrument.
I got a buddy that doesn't play country, and he uses a pedal, and it sounds
now it's
great.
kind of gotten me more, I think it's probably because it's where it was introduced.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can get guys, you hear all this jazz stuff, like Emmons did a lot of it, and a lot of people, and they play the jazzy type stuff, and but it's fallen out of favor. It goes in cycles. Everybody wants one, and then they don't.
Right.
And then they do, and then they don't. It's always gone like that. It's just like, there was a while there, no, we can't have that because it'll sound too country. And
to which you'd say, what's wrong with that? Or
I don't know.
I mean, it depends on what you're going for.
About it, they just hell, I hated them when I first heard them.
Really?
Oh yes.
No kidding.
When I was in high school, my mother and my stepdad, they'd put on these country albums. And I'm going like, oh, good God, here we go again with this whiny crap.
Is it just because it was your stepdad and you didn't like him, or is it just kind of this?
They'd say, listen to the steel guitar on this.
And you'd say,
I'd say, that twangy thing, the twang drove me nuts. How the hell I ever wound up here is absolutely beyond me.
They say the emotions of hate and love are very close together,
that
man.
That must be it, because all of a sudden, then here comes the Burrito Brothers. And, Neil Young's using some, and all of a sudden I'm going, whoa. Some of the old Graham Parsons stuff. New Riders of the Purple Sage and what have you, and all this stuff. And I went, whoa. And it just, I thought, and I had that start on one, and that's about, when the inspiration came in was about 74, 75 that I want one.
So this wasn't a love at first sight. This was it slowly lured you into its
just,
embrace.
All of a sudden, I had an interest, like I said, when I bought that double neck Fender I told you about. I was just out of high school.
Okay.
The summer after I graduated, something about them intrigued me, but then all the other stuff I mentioned before of Jimmy getting the one and all this, and all that time from like 70 to 75, I started hearing other things. That's what I want. That's what I want. That. How do I get that?
Yeah.
And then here comes Jimmy with the one, and that overtook me. Nobody even knew I played guitar.
Huh.
Finally. First, that's all I did. They thought I was a guitar player. Well, then I played steel all the time in bands, after I started, and I kept on, and, but I always kept playing acoustic at home, trying to write stuff.
Yeah.
It was a love I always had, was playing acoustic guitar.
Well, and you write great songs with it, man. God, they're so good.
Anyway, okay, the band stuff and the steel stuff, and then we start Lonesome Willie, the acoustic, of which I was playing acoustic guitar and dobro in.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, people are like, oh, well, we didn't know you played guitar. I said, you couldn't be kidding me.
How long
So
have we known each other?
now I did that enough, and then all of a sudden I dig my steel out and play. Oh, you play steel too?
Oh my goodness.
I go like, yeah, I do. It's just like, yeah, I've done both of them for years.
Yeah.
And,
Man. Jeez, man.
I was thinking, I was kind of wondering how you've ever done some of your best insults you've ever got from people.
Right.
I love these stories,
Right. Right.
Not to be the guy that's all of a sudden taking over the thing here, but
No, it's good.
I'd like to hear your versions because I've got a couple that just kill me.
Of insults?
Insults.
That people have said about me?
Yeah, while you're playing.
Oh, gosh. Oh, man. So I've had a few. My favorite one is, wow, that was surprisingly good. It's like, thanks. I don't know what, or if especially if I'm playing at like a small dive bar that I've never played at before in some small town, and I'm setting up, and people come in to eat dinner or that, and they see there's going to be music, and they're like, oh God, because there's two types of people that go out. Ones that just want to have a good time, and those that are going out to eat at dinner or something like that, and they just want a quiet conversation. They don't want loud, crazy music going on. So then you can just see them looking at me, and they're like, oh boy. And then they come up at the end of the gig like, hey man, that was surprisingly enjoyable. We really were a little worried when we saw a band setting up, that this was going to be one of those nights where we're going to have to scream at each other to have a conversation. And like, I mean, my job is to sound good for you guys, so you have an enjoyable night. So why would you be surprised that, I shouldn't say that because there's a lot of people that don't think like that and they just get up there and wail but those are the ones I get the most. Yeah. I get the most of. And there's I don't know, I'm trying to think of when it was. It would have been the one I get lately, and I don't think this is a diss, I know it's not meant that way, but it's the, man, you've really improved.
Okay, so when was I bad?
It's one of those things that it's good because you want to improve, and it's especially when it comes from someone you respect. It's like you were talking about earlier with your band and that, like, most improved, player. It's one of those things where I respect them and they are noticing growth in me. Yeah. So that's good. It's the other people that don't play music that come up to me that have been seeing me play for years and go, man, you've really improved. It's like, it's those ones. Yeah. And I get those often. It's like, oh yeah. And I people I haven't seen in like 6 years, versus from when I first started playing. They walk into a bar, I'm still playing six, and like, man, you sound way different than you did back then. I'm like, well, hopefully, like that's how it's supposed to work. Yeah. So you gotta tell me some tales. You can call it tales from the road, or some fun stories from Mike's life.
That can be incriminating as hell.
You can just share some that you're not worried about, but I gotta hear some.
We had a band called Southfire.
Southfire?
Yep.
Okay.
And it was me, a guy named John Burning, great guitar player, Mick Soyseth, who replaced Carl Huffman, and then we had a drummer named Clyde Norris. And we used to go up to Noonan. It's way just about to the Canadian border. Okay. And they had a lot of strip coal mining going up around Estevan, Saskatchewan at the time. Mm-hmm. And booze was cheaper on this side of the line.
Of course.
And these Canadians would come down in droves to this bar. Mm-hmm. And it was absolutely insane. First song, dance floor full, places hopping.
Jeez.
Just the kind you like. Yeah. Other than when it got to be 11:45, it went empty because they all had to get across the border before midnight.
Oh, okay.
So you get to do the last set to maybe a few people.
Sure.
But anyway, this is a little dinky town, little whistle stop place, and it's got another bar, and it had this old hotel upstairs that was kind of in a half circle of rooms.
Okay.
But it had been condemned for years. I mean, the plaster and the sheetrock's falling off the walls, and anyway, and well, this is where we got to stay. And all there was them old bed springs, them old square metal ones.
Oh, sure.
With the springs on them. Well, we had to put sleeping bags on them.
Oh, jeez.
There was our home for the weekend. Well, he said, well, there's another guy there. He said, but, you don't need to worry about him. Some other guy. Well, we get there and we bring in our stuff. Well, somebody looks on the table, and here's these parole papers. The guy's on parole for murder.
Oh, my goodness.
And we're going like,
you don't have to worry
oh, shit. We all look at each other like, this guy's on parole for murder. Well, we better not piss him off.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, he had this we were kind of looking around. We found rooms, and threw our stuff in there, and there was this statue, probably, I don't know, 2.5 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
And big ceramic thing, kind of a green thing, and it's two big, burly, muscly Greek guys, and the other one's holding the other one upside down over his shoulder.
Oh, my goodness.
And it's got a little creepy feel to it, We're kind of going, what about this? Well, we got done playing that night. We went to a party. I don't know what time we got back to that room, but it was early in the morning, and I got tired. I said, I got to go to bed. And all of a sudden, I wake up, and John is sitting on the floor by my bed, laughing and laughing, and he said, the statue. He said, the statue. And I said, what are you talking about? He says, Carl broke it.
Oh, my God.
And I said, what? It belonged to this dude. I thought, he's not going to like this.
He's not going to like it at all.
So we're all out in the living room. We thought, screw you, Carl. We're telling him you broke it. We're pointing at you if he gets pissed. This is
every man for himself.
We're not getting in this. This is your deal.
Oh,
well,
geez.
He picked it up, and he was looking at it, and he went to throw it on the couch. He said, I don't like this thing. And he threw it, and it bounced off the couch, hits the floor, and breaks.
Oh, my goodness.
And we're going, this guy's going to kill us. He's not going to be happy. And we finally got back there to clean up before we had to play Saturday night, and he was there. He kind of comes walking out, and he stands there and he says, yeah. He says, you guys broke my statue. I kind of like that thing.
Oh, God.
And we're kind of going, oh. He just turned around, walked off, never said another word about it, But we thought, yeah, well, I wouldn't want to relive that night anymore,
dude.
But
that's, oh, my God.
we were talking, when you're talking about insults.
Yeah.
Years and years ago, I had another band, early 80s, and there was a state line club west of Williston we played at. And the place was, it was a rowdy place. There was always fights and all kinds of crap going on all the time.
Sure.
We got up to play one night, and one of those nights you think, this is going to be good. Dance floors all full, people still danced back then.
Yeah, yeah.
And I seen this drunk guy standing at the back of the the dance floor with a can of beer in his hand. He's kind of doing the bob and weave, and I could see him staring at us, at me, and all of a sudden he's trying to get up to the stage, and he's weaving in and out of people dancing, And I'm kind of watching, and I thought, what's on this guy's mind? Something's coming here. And all of a sudden he finally, and I bet it took him 5 minutes.
To get from the back up to you.
Just up and down, snaking around. And I thought, well, what's this guy's niche?
Yeah.
And he comes walking up there. He's got one hand in his pocket, and he's got his beer, and he kind of takes a drink, and he says, you guys really aren't that good. These people just don't have anywhere else to go.
Oh, my gosh. That was worth the 5-minute trek from the back.
And I had watched him, and I said, you put such an effort into coming up here to insult me, and he wasn't even antagonistic about it. He was just, I just got to come and let you know.
Oh,
I feel
my
compelled,
goodness.
and I started laughing. I said, I think that's the best insult I've ever had. I said, I'm going to find you in the first break, and I'm going to buy you a beer. He said, okay. He turns around.
Oh, my gosh.
Walks off,
That's amazing. Oh, jeez. I'm gonna use that line next time we're at Wayne's garage, and some random person, they're gonna, what is he talking about? They're gonna think I'm super rude.
I don't think I've ever had a better one than that. I couldn't even get mad at the guy. I
That's
just thought,
funny.
You put so much effort into this, and I thought. And he wasn't even mad or being mean. He
just needed you to know.
Yeah, I just had to let you know this. I thought, well, thank you for enlightening me.
Appreciate that, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, God. I had one guy I got in the same place that I played with that I did not get along with. He always did himself lots of favors with the money and other things, and what you took home on the weekend for all the relatives, and charging it to the band. And he got all PO'd at me one night. We haven't even finished one set, and me and him got into it. And we're about ready to start punching. I mean, this was going bad. And anyway, and he looked at the other guys, and I said, "The hell with you." I said, "I'm done." I went and talked to the owner, and she didn't like him either.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "I can't do this." I said, I'm leaving. She said, "That's fine with us." So I go up and tell him, "I'm done. I'm out of here." And he looks, and he said, "I'm a professional." He said, "I don't need you." And I said, "Well, that's just fine with me." And he said, and he looks at the other guys, "We'll just keep playing without him." And they said, "Oh, the hell with you. We're going with Mike." That was it.
That's amazing.
And the owner was so nice to me. She said, "I don't blame you. I've had nothing but trouble with him."
Yeah.
And all
People
that.
get like that, man.
Yeah, so it was one guy, me and 3 other friends, Bill Falcon, another good friend of mine, and a guy, Mick Soyseth again, and a fiddle player, monster player, Jim Ed Hodges.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim's, he used to play around Williston with us, colorful guy. And anyway, and he left Williston. He went to St. Louis. Best band name I ever heard, the Well Hungarians.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, the Well Hungarians.
Hungarians.
Yeah, that was his band. And then he...
I wish I was that clever, man. That's good.
And this guy is so good. I mean, we always said if we could have a tenth of his brain, the rest of us would be happy. I mean, he can... he's just extremely good. And anyway, then he left. He went to Nashville for a while. He actually got on as a backup player for Blake Shelton for a little while, but he got fired for getting in a fight with the bass player. And then I can't remember if he went back to St. Louis, and then he went down to North or South Carolina, and there was kind of like a show thing down there he kind of belonged to, and then he went back to Nashville, and he's been playing with a guy named Craig Morgan for quite a while. I mean, he's got to play the Opry and all kinds of stuff.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But, yeah, and...
that's the thing about music, man. It either makes you better, or like the other guy, it makes you worse, where you all of a sudden get an ego and, you know, think you've got all this talent. And talent isn't born and doesn't grow on an island, man. Like, you've got to have people around you that inspire you and you know, keep you going in that. So
anyway,
that's cool.
Those 4 guys that night, we were talking about the insults, and we did a little deal in a bar in Williston, and it's one of those nights we just, why in the hell didn't we record this night? You know, one of those that just happen. You know, they don't come around all that much, but you got those magical nights where... Anyway, and Jim was playing fiddle, Bill was doing guitar and upright bass, and Mick was playing bass. I was playing guitar. And we were playing slower stuff, and we were just you kind of just raise your hands up in the air and you think, what showed up here?
Right.
And it's just going so good, and everything's, just one of those nights that just happen where you don't even know why, but you're really glad when they do.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it was all kind of slower and stuff, and here again comes another drunk guy, same type of deal.
Oh my goodness.
And he's got his can of beers, and he kind of walks up and he says, all sad, and I really like what you guys are doing, but he says, could you pick it up a little bit? I don't want to fall in my beer can. I don't want to fall in, but we're going to make you so sad you're going to fall in your beer can.
It gives a whole new meaning to there's a tear in my beer, man.
Yeah. Pick it up, don't make me fall in my beer can. He was getting so sad. So,
oh my goodness. That's never been the case when I've heard you play, man. And I've, getting to play with you at Wayne's a few times and playing a few songs together is super highlight of the night, and even just as I, meet cool and talented people, around here and that. So I don't think you've ever wanted once to make me fall in my beer can. So that's never been the case.
You guys have done the same for me. Wayne, I played with him a little bit up in Watford. Not a whole lot, but he used to come into the Legion when we had a little jam play a little bit with us. When he left, and I kind of lost contact with him, and anyway, and then he started telling me about this thing that you guys do, this, and he said, you got to come down and meet these people.
Yeah.
He says, you'll fit right in with them.
Yeah.
And finally 3 years, I said, oh, yeah, I'll do that. I said, I'll come down for that. And I can't thank you guys enough for being so accepting of me. I mean, you and Chris and Wayne and Jason.
Yeah. Dude, we're happy to have you, man.
Night with him, I went, I like this guy already.
He's pretty solid, dude.
Yeah, he's very solid.
Yeah,
I love his playing. And
I owe a lot of what I do to a lot of him in the early stages of when I started. So
yeah, there's just those people that you feel like you can kind of meld with easy.
Yeah.
You kind of find people like that. It seemed like the guy I mentioned earlier, John Burning, that I played with for years, and this guy has got a touch. I mean, he could play my rig and make it sound good on my guitar, because I played some of that too. And what is it with you? And that guy, we always said, Burning can mix a band better off stage than a sound man can setting. He just had these ears, one of those type of people.
Yeah.
And he could mix things, when you didn't have a sound guy. I mean, who the hell could afford one back then?
Right,
He just did it that way. But his guitar playing, but you'd hit those nights, which I don't know if everybody else probably used, we just kind of thought like we hit the bubble.
Yeah.
You get that. And the thing I always liked, always told some people, I said, I always kind of like being the worst player in the band, because they draw you up.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, they give you something to aspire to.
Yep.
And I think we've all been probably in stuff to where it hasn't been that way. Not to make it sound like you're bragging, but when you probably know what you're doing a little better than the others, you stop.
You do. You can't.
Stop.
Yeah, you
That's
absolutely
not
do.
to be rude, and I don't mean to be mean.
It's just different levels of where people are at in their journey.
Like everybody said, in a band, you ain't going to go past your weakest point.
Right.
And so I always liked the fact that when I felt like I was a little lacking of the other people, because I thought, they draw you up.
Yeah, something to shoot for.
Yeah,
something to shoot for. It's
but
cool.
You guys have been so good to me down here, and gosh, I mean, I go back home and I tell everybody about this stuff. I thought, You guys ought to go down and hear these guys.
Yeah,
there's good
that's cool.
stuff going on down there.
That's cool, man. Well, we appreciate that very much.
And in the same respect, there's a lot of guys. Bismarck's got a really good feel.
Mm-hmm.
Two of the younger kids there that I played with, there's a guy named Adam Taylor, Levi Miller, Nick Hockett, younger guys.
Starting to get some growth up there, huh? And
yeah,
cool.
And they're probably getting 30s, close to it. But,
sure.
They'll do a lot of bluegrassy style, a little Trampled by Turtles type stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And things of that nature. And I like the feel they have.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a kick out of it because here this last summer, Mike, will you come and play this? These two jobs. One, they had a country fest thing I played at, and then we did another street dance thing. And, and they're young, good players and great taste, in what they do.
Sure.
And I liked that. I thought, yes.
That's cool.
It's
nice when that happens.
The roots are still hanging there.
Yeah.
Maybe a little dressed up, but they're still there.
Yeah, music's not going anywhere anytime soon, man. People always find it.
Yep.
Mike, this has been great. Thanks
it's been wonderful. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for hanging at the Heath Bar. And we'll.
This isn't an actual place.
It's not, but audio it is. So one day it will be, though. I'm building one. It's gonna happen. We'll get you back, and we'll sitting around a bar, man. But anyway, this was fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
That's Mike Endrud, folks. If you haven't gotten the chance to hear his stuff, I definitely recommend find out if you can hunt down a garage he might be playing in and go listen to him. You can also hear one of his songs on Spotify, Georgiana. Check it out. It's top quality songwriting. No other way to describe it. Anyway, if you want to get in touch with me, you can shoot me an email, heath@heathbaronline.com, or hit me up on Twitter @HeathJohnson. That's it, folks. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Talk to you next time.